All right. So recruitment and retention. Doc originally invited me here to talk about CannonballSun, and I work with. There's a lot of teams are emailing me and talking to them, but on a regular basis, I'm still in good contact with the Okemos Solar Car team. I've been working with the UT Arlington Solar Car team. And I've stepped back a little bit from the University of Michigan team, but I'll probably still have a couple parts on the 2025 car, and I regularly work with many of their members. And so I've sort of noticed this common trend or challenge with teams where it's hard to bring people on, it's hard to get them up to speed, and then it's hard to retain them. And so I just worked on this doc and I sent it out to the teams that I'm regularly working with and kind of had a conversation with those team leaders. And I sent it to Doc and he liked it so much. He said, well, why don't you talk about that and you can talk about CannonballSun, but why doesn't that be your focus? So like Doc said, I've had a lot of fun with solar cars, probably the last, I guess, coming up on almost 10 years of my life have been spent sort of fascinated by them. I founded the Okemos Solar Car team. We had a really great team that year. We finished second. It was our first time ever competing in the Classic division, and it was just sort of like a story from a movie where we went down to Texas and just had the greatest time, and been kind of in love with solar cars ever since. I've been a member of the University of Michigan Solar Car team, and the highlight of that for me has been I was the team's project manager, team captain, team leader. You can use a lot of words to describe it, but we finished 4th place in the world in 2023 racing from Darwin to Adelaide. And if you've never heard of the World Solar Challenge, I highly, highly encourage you to go online, watch some videos, and it's really inspirational for this project, for renewable energy. It's just an awesome thing. In between then, I spent 8 months at Tesla as a design engineer intern. Last year, I spent 3 months at SpaceX working on a satellite program as an intern. I'm going to come back full-time when I graduate in May from the University of Michigan. And I'll actually be working in Bastrop, Texas, which is close to Austin, and I think it's about 3 hours from us here in Dallas. And like Doc said, we had a pretty awesome adventure this summer. This is also, probably one of the peaks of my solar car experience was getting an article in Car and Driver. I remember reading Car and Driver when I was a kid, so I had to put that up there. But we drove across the United States. It took us approximately 14 days. We averaged about 228 miles a day. New York to Los Angeles, sun power only. The battery in that car, we never plugged into the wall, so when we got it from the manufacturer, we spot welded it ourselves, and from that point on, it only ever saw energy from the sun. So that's just a little bit of background. I want to show some cool projects here, and what's really possible with the skills that you'll learn here, and what you can apply at the high school level or collegiate level as you get there. This was the suspension that powered us across the finish line in 2023. I wasn't a part of that team because I did the CannonballSun adventure, but the University of Michigan also won the American Solar Challenge in 2024, and that was a cross-country race. Through the middle of the country, the exact states elude me. Another cool part I worked on was our wheel hub, and you can see the reason I included this is, I designed, you see these blue aluminum bits here, but it had to interact with. This is a fender here, that black part and the wheels hiding back there. Someone else designed that part. The gold part is the brake caliper mount. Someone else designed that. The chassis is another part that another team member designed. And this was a team effort. I worked on one part of it, but this was a part of a greater system, and it took a disciplined and dedicated team to be able to design these parts, working together, but design them independently and put them together onto the car. Another cool project that I'm quite proud of here, this is a motor dyno, and we used this in the lead up to the World Solar Challenge 2023 to develop our motors, and this was another team effort. And in this effort, and as we've talked about today, and as you'll see as you move on in your career, it all starts with an idea, and then normally with a CAD screen if you're a mechanical design engineer. So we designed it in the computer, we validated it in the computer, we'll do analysis at times to ensure, hey, if we apply a full torque on this motor, is the thing going to fall apart or is it going to keep on going? That's sort of what being an engineer is all about. Another fun example here is a wheel. But what I really want to, and I've got to have this as well. This was our CannonballSun car, and this was a pretty cool car. To give teams some context as well, we averaged 228 miles per day on the road, which is pretty fantastic. If you look at the American Solar Challenge or high school solar challenge results, a car that can average over 200 miles a day would be competitive in just about any solar car competition, with the exception of maybe the World Solar Challenge, where the roads are a little bit different, the weather is quite optimal, and the budgets are a little bit bigger, maybe. But this car only cost around $14,000, and we're able to drive from New York to Los Angeles. So you don't need a lot of money to really get one of these cars going. And for a lot of teams that does sound like a lot, but that's a very reasonable amount of money, and we didn't have any big corporate sponsors. It was really just me and my buddies working summer jobs, trying to chip a couple of dollars at a time into building this car, and we had this dream, and we just sort of made it happen. So, what I want to emphasize is none of this would have been possible without a team. And for everyone sitting here, truly, if you can dream it, you can dream about going to the Solar Car Challenge and competing, and maybe getting on the podium. And Doc says this many times, but to be able to have this idea, this dream, to execute on it, to come down to Texas and be with all the other teams, you're really winning, and you're really doing something truly incredible by being a part of this. But to be a successful team, you have to define your team's culture. And if you want to build a car, before you start with the car, you got to build the team. You have to have a team. I think when I think back on these experiences that I've had and these adventures with solar cars and that kind of thing, it's just simply more fun if you have a good team and you enjoy being around them. And I sort of gave this context here, but every team from the high school solar car team I was a part of to the University of Michigan, which is traditionally one of the best teams in the country, we struggle to recruit people and then to keep them and have them be from most people who joined the University of Michigan solar car team, certainly when we started our Okemos High School solar car team, no one really knows what they're doing, and you have to train them, you have to invest in them, and hopefully when you do that, they'll bite the bug too, and they'll be able to recruit and train those next people. So in my experience, there's sort of three common motivating factors, and this isn't all inclusive, but people look to join a solar car team, so they're looking for experience, whether they want to learn how to weld, learn how to do FEA, they're trying to get into a certain college, or they're looking for a job. That's always a common motivating factor. The cool factor is certainly there, and it's really hard to argue just how cool these solar cars are. People either have friends or they're looking to make friends. So the experience you get from a solar car team is truly incredible, and I personally credit the Solar Car Challenge and all these solar car experiences I've had to my acceptance into the University of Michigan, my jobs at Tesla and SpaceX, and now I'll be going back. You really do, if you're willing to invest into this thing, you can get a lot out of it as well. It's not a one-way street, although sometimes it might feel that way. And the cool factor is extremely hard to argue. Like it's just plain cool. The fact that I can say, and many of these people here, that I've gotten to drive a race car at the Texas Motor Speedway and in a competition, that's pretty awesome. You get to these adventures across the United States. I know this year's not across country, but even just getting our solar car from Michigan to Texas was an adventure in itself. And when I look back, I think, I just feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to have been on all of these adventures and had all of these great experiences. When you think about joining a team, normally I'd say people are in two buckets. Either they have a buddy, and I've dragged along several buddies and convinced them to bite the solar car bug, who ask them to join the team, or you're looking to make friends. And in my experience, as you recruit people and think about this, you want to think about, hey, we're bringing them on the team, but you're kind of almost bringing in a new friend. And in my experience is if someone has a friend on the team, they're so much more likely to go the extra mile, not for some people they know, but for their friends. And this is something that everyone on the team and team leaders and every team member can foster that environment of ensuring, hey, this is an environment where we're making friends. And not everyone's going to be best friends, but that's okay. And so this is a wall of text. I know these slides will be uploaded, so I just wanted to highlight sort of 3 things here. When you think about getting experience, there's a lot of experiences in solar car, and some of them might be, sanding foam and breathing in foam dust, and that's okay. But, sooner or later, you need to assign people meaningful tasks that they can talk about and be proud of. And that's what it really comes down to in terms of, I was a part of this team and I did this really cool thing and this part of it happened because of me. That's a big thing for people, and it is something they can talk about, and it helps them stay invested. The playing cool is certainly another factor, and this is something you can emphasize and you can try and inspire people. And I mentioned that video of World Solar Challenge. When I was the project manager of the University of Michigan Solar Car team, in kind of the 10 minutes leading up to when we'd start our meetings and people would start filing in the room, I'd just put on a video in the background of the World Solar Challenge or American Solar Challenge. Doc's done a great job of getting high school videos as well. And it helps people, keep that end goal in mind. And that's hard with a solar car, where it's not like a sports team where every Saturday afternoon you might go out and play a game or something like that. A solar car, you don't have that many opportunities to really show off. And the same thing with friends. If every meeting, the first 5 minutes, or every time you get together once a week or once every other week, you do a quick icebreaker, you do a quick group activity, you try and encourage that environment. You think if you do that once a week for 5-10 minutes, by the end of the year, you've spent hours sort of building that team culture, and you're consciously doing that, and that's something you're trying to do, and it ends up adding up. The most important thing is once you get someone on the team and you realize you invest your time in them, how do you get them to stay? And from a high level, people are excited about it. They want this experience. They think it's really cool. They want to make friends. But if they're not enjoying it, well, they're probably not going to stick around. And you might think, well, that's okay. Maybe we didn't want that person. But retention is really the most important thing on a solar car team in terms of that knowledge transfer. And I think everyone's had this experience, is once you've done it one time, once you take that suspension apart and you put it back together on the car, the next time you do it, and the third time and the fourth time, you can do it twice as quick, 3 times as quick. You just get better at it. And not only that, but once I know how to take apart and reassemble the suspension, I can teach my friends, I can teach the other people on the team, and sort of that chain continues to build. But if every year you start from the ground up with a brand new group of students, it's really hard to kind of continue that, building that momentum, and even to just sustain the momentum of being able to attend the competition every year. And at the University of Michigan, people are always surprised, and I've done a fair recruiting as a member of the team and as a project manager and working in various roles. But I'll tell people it takes 2 years for Solar Car to start really giving back. And at the high school level, that might not be totally true, but you have to invest in the team. You have to learn the systems, you have to learn about the problem, you have to learn about the challenges, and it takes time. It's not something that you can just wake up on and master, and certainly for different people, you might be able to just jump in and provide immediate assistance to the team. But if you're sitting here in this room, or maybe you have some friends at home who they come to the meetings, but it just feels like maybe they're not clicking or something like that, it just takes time, and you have to invest in the team, and the team has to invest in you, and it goes both ways. And sort of that mentorship thing is especially important, and especially important at the college level, where we don't necessarily have an advisor looking over and assisting us on a day-to-day basis. Oops. In terms of feeling valued and what you can do to ensure that retention. People feeling valued is extremely important. Like I mentioned, Solar Car, you don't offer frequent chances for competitions or accolades. And if people show up every day and they do good work and they contribute to the team, but they're not recognized, they don't feel valued, sooner or later, or maybe some other people are stealing credit from the work they're providing. In my experience, they're unlikely to stick around. And it might just be as simple as saying, hey Doc, that work you did there was really great. We really appreciate it. We saw you went the extra mile. You can imagine that if you told someone on your team that once a week, so that means you tell someone 52 times a year that hey, they're doing a good job and they feel appreciated. They're likely going to feel pretty good. And obviously you want to be sparing and be honest, but it's not that hard to ensure that people feel appreciated and validated for the work they're doing. The other thing is, and this is extremely critical, is people need to contribute meaningfully. And that doesn't mean every single person is going to be the driver crossing the finish line at the end of the race, or the one doing the welding on the frame, or raising the $1 million to build the car, or whatever that may be. But if someone's on the team and they have friends and they feel respected or appreciated, but they're not contributing meaningfully, then it's more social hour. Every single person on the team needs to have something that they can do, something that they can add, and for every person it might be a little bit different. And for your senior members of the team, they're probably going to contribute a little bit more than the freshmen. But if everyone feels like they have a place and they feel like they have a way that they can advance this project forward, it goes a long way in terms of retaining them. And then when it comes down to it and they're busy, but they know that, hey, I was the one who said I'm going to check all these bolts and make sure they're all grade 8. They feel responsible for that, and that goes a long way in having folks stick around. And the meaningful projects and experiences are what really matter. When you talk about Solar Car, it's one thing to say, well, I was on the team, but it's another thing to say, I was on the team and I did this. This is how I contributed to the project. And that's really the key to helping people stick around. And the friendships as well are extremely important. And not everyone's going to be best friends. That's I don't think anyone's naive enough to think about that. But at the end of the day, building a solar car, you also build friendships. And trying to foster that environment and ensure it's an inclusive group and there's not cliques on the team and things like that, it really goes a long way in terms of having the best product at the end. And this is a good picture here. So we're on the side of the road in Kansas. And it was well over 100 degrees, and we're laying in the dirt, and there's something wrong with our right motor on Sunstrider. That was our CannonballSun car. And these guys are, laying in the dirt, trying to figure out what's wrong. And our buddy Brett, we brought in at the last minute to help drive, and he's ready to grab whatever tools you need. And just fundamentally, you're willing to go the extra mile for your friends. And once again, these will be posted, but kind of 3 things I wanted to highlight is in terms of having someone feel valued and respected. These one-on-one meetings are super important. And as the University of Michigan project manager, we had a race crew of approximately 20 people. And over the course of approximately 6 months, I met with every single one of them at least 2 times. It was approximately a half hour. Not a huge investment. And you just talk. One-on-one. It's a semi-formal environment. You see how they're feeling. You hear their concerns. You hear their goals. And it just makes folks feel valued. They feel respected. And it's because you are valuing them. You're trying to understand what you can do as a team leader to help them be better. And I think it goes a long way. In terms of contributing meaningfully, the other thing that can be challenging is you don't want to assign someone, say there's a freshman who's never welded before, they don't know what they're doing, you say, hey, we want you to weld the chassis. And they say, okay, that's great, I'm super excited, they're super pumped about being on the team, but then you don't give them any support. You don't introduce them to anyone who can mentor them, you don't introduce them to anyone who can teach them, you don't tell them where the equipment is. It's not going to end well. you have to make sure, as you assign these tasks and you ask people to make these contributions to the team, you're setting them up for success. And that's a common failure point, and it can lead to frustration where you say, hey, I asked you to do this and you didn't do it, and it's like, oh, well, you asked me to weld the frame, but I don't know the first thing about welding, so I was excited to do it, but I couldn't do it. So setting people up for success is extremely important. And I think in terms of the friendships, and like I said, not everyone's going to be a best friend, but if every now and then you can take a deep breath and you can set up a social event, or team dinners ended up being really popular with the University of Michigan Solar Car team. We'd do like cooking challenges where we'd be divided into groups and we'd all cook for one another and then decide who sort of did the best job. And maybe that's not super applicable for a high school team, but just spending time together outside of the shop, having fun, it ends well. The other thing, and this can be a challenge, is quality over quantity. And I know when I was in high school, I was the same way, and I think it's only getting worse and worse. But folks are so overcommitted. But if you really want to shine on this project and have it go a long ways, you have to be committed and you have to contribute meaningfully. And I said 2 years, you have to invest time into this thing. You can't just, hope to spend every Saturday for an hour in the fall because, in the winters you have ski practice and in the spring you have tennis practice or whatever that may be. You have to put time into this. You have to contribute meaningfully. And eventually you can kind of become a rock star. And not only that, but you can, train other people and help them be that way. And this group here, this is a pretty good photo. So on the left, that's Brett, and he was our driver. We brought him in at sort of the last minute, and he was committed to helping us get this car from New York to Los Angeles. That's Russ Pline. He's actually my high school math teacher, and we did almost the entirety of the welding fabrication in his shop. And it's located in a town adjacent to ours. And as my dad, I roped him into driving our chase vehicle from New York to Los Angeles, so that was a good deal for us. There I am, and right there, that's Kyle. And Kyle and I was a part of, we were the founders of the Okemos Solar Car team, and we've sort of been best friends ever since. I'll be his actually best man at his wedding this upcoming summer. And on the right, that's Danny Ezzo, and we also brought him into the project when we attempted to drive from New York to Los Angeles in the summer of 2021 and were unsuccessful. But effectively, that group of 6 was the critical group and did almost the entirety of the work. And the 3 on the right there, Will, Kyle, and Danny, were the ones who really developed this entire vehicle. It was not a huge team. And we were all away at school, but we worked on it slowly, piece by piece. Quality there was what really mattered, and we were able to develop this vehicle to drive from New York to Los Angeles, over 3,000 miles. The first people to ever do it, the fastest time. The University of Michigan actually attempted in the summer of 2022 and 2021 and was unsuccessful. It was not an easy thing, but everyone's so overcommitted that just that core group is all it really takes to build one of these things and get it not only to the start line but across the finish line, and to do so in a very successful manner. I've said this many times, but you get out what you put in. If you just show up once a week and it's sort of social hour, you're not going to get anything out. You're wasting your time. You'd probably be better off staying at home or doing whatever else with your time. But if you really invest in this thing, it will pay dividends in ways you'll never believe. Jobs, friends. You might get to be in a wedding, I guess. It all works out. It's not always glorious. In fact, it's almost always not glorious. What you see in the Car and Driver article is pretty cool, or crossing that finish line in those photos of the team. Those photos of the team at the finish line in Adelaide, we look pretty happy, but you don't see all the late nights, the sanding, the blisters on your fingers, the mistakes you made where you had to go back and redo something, and the frustrations. It's not always easy. It's almost always hard. It almost always takes a conscious decision to say, hey, I'm going to set this time aside. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to build this car. it's a hard thing to do, and there's a reason that truly not so many people have been able to successfully do this, because it's hard. It's not always fun. You know, there's lots of times when you might say, man, what am I doing here? It's 2 a.m., I have class tomorrow at 8 a.m., and this darn thing still isn't working. But you can make it happen. Everyone in this room has this ability. You can commit to this project, and it is so worth it. You will never regret sort of the time and hours you invest into this thing, and the dividends it will pay. So from a high level on the summary, you know, this is why people join. They want to gain experience. They think it's really cool. They're either their friends drag them in, or they're looking to make friends. But you know, consistently working to remind team members why they joined, it will help retain them. And you want people to stick around. And how to help them stick around is they feel valued, they're able to contribute to the project in a meaningful way, and they make friends. There's a social group or network that's formed out of this team. Quality is always going to be. I have that backwards there, but that's not quite right. Quality is always going to beat quantity. And you know, keep your people around and help them be rock stars. If you remember anything from my presentation today, is keep people around and do what you can to turn them into rock stars. It will work out. So that's all I had. Feel free to reach out. Thank you.